Welcome back to Dubbzi Bricks for another episode of Building Gotham City in Lego. And I've moved the Gotham City over to this smaller table at the moment. And it's just as easier for me to take photographs for the thumbnails, but also it's easier for me to work on it over here as well. The light's a lot better because I do need to get the lighting sorted out in the Lego studio. Now, in the last update, we worked on this final section of rock work at the bottom here, or the start of it, should I say. And in this update, I want to work on the next floor up on here. So be where Strange is treating the patients, and also the high security bit for the villains, which have got their superpowers or a little bit more dangerous, the likes of Poison Ivy and Freeze and so forth. One thing I'd really like to do is do a little bit more work on the top of the lighthouse there. So without further ado, let's take something over to the table and let's get started. And now the fun and games begin, trying to work out what goes where and how we're going to go about doing so. Now we've got the hole in the floor up the back there, so we need to be working around that. I want to have a section for the maximum security, a room for Strange to be carrying out his experiments, and we also need an access point to the sewer below for Killer Croc, how they get him in there, and also how they feed him. So lots of planning needs to go into this. Once I've worked all that out, I can then work out how I'm going to be doing the rock face here, which again needs to be removable. And I want to have it so I can remove it without having to take the floors out of the structure here. So let's have a good think about how we're going to fit this all in. And there we have the floor all ready to be tiled, the walls to go on. Here is the hole ready for Killer Croc to feed him, for access down to that section. Obviously, by going for this size here, I wouldn't be able to use a big fig. It would just be the minifig size, which, to be fair, I'm happy enough with it. I've got more chance of getting a minifig scale Killer Croc than a big fig. The problem I've got at the moment is this is super tight in here. So when you pull it out, it's so tight, and that's just getting out without any walls on there. So I just need to work out the best way to go forward from here. I think it would almost be better having this in two sections. The problem I've got is, as mentioned before, I want to have maximum security this side and the experimentation room over here. However, if I was to cut this section off just here for the experimentation room, there's very few studs that this will be resting on. So that does cause a little bit of a problem. And I don't want to put a support in the room below here. As you can see, it's very, very dark down here, so I will need to put some lights in. But again, that's not too much of a problem. I can easily put them into the floor here. I'll work a way of doing that so the wires are nicely hidden. But yeah, just need to work out how I'm going to go about the layout problems that we're currently facing with the floor here. And that's the floor all amended. Although it looks the same, it is actually different. We now have two separate panels, so I'll be able to put it in at this angle here and then just drop it into place. So I can now have Strange's experimentation room on this side and keep the maximum security over this side with the feeding pit for Killer Croc. Now with this section here, I want to have a light in the bottom of this plate here, so I just need to work out how I'm going to go about the wires. Luckily we're going to be using the wireless connector boards from Game of Bricks. They work perfectly for this sort of thing. So I just need to work out how I'm actually going to connect them. And again, the same with the lights on this section here. I want to have lights on the back there. So it is going to start getting a little bit complicated with the lighting, or it feels complicated at the moment in my mind, but I'm sure it's going to be quite simple once we get to it. And I will be doing a video very soon on the lighting that I'm using within Gotham and in future mocks as well, and the techniques I'm using. So hopefully that'll be a video that you'll find really interesting and help you with your own builds. But what I need to do now is just work out where the walls are going to go in this section here, and also how I'm going to get the wire hidden on the floor of that part. And next up, I need to get a light on the bottom of this structure here. So I want to thread a light through that Technic plate here. This is the ceiling for the area where we're going to be keeping all of the artifacts for the villains. So once we've got the light cable coming up through the floor here, we run it through that channel there, and then I'll just tile over the top of it. That way I'm not pinching the wire. I'll then be putting a connector board, one of these wireless connectors, on that spot just there. Then when that connector board sits on this, on the other part of the mock, we have power going through the lights. And I really do love this part. This is from Gamer Bricks. They kindly send through my lights to me each month. I really do appreciate all of their support. And I'll leave a link to their website on the description of the video, because as I said, these are game changers. It enables you to have all of your floors lit up on a mock without actually having to plug cables together from floor to floor. Use these, as soon as they touch, you've got the power going through it. So it really is a top product. So yeah, highly recommend checking that out. And if you use the code Dubbzi when placing an order, you will get 25% off of your order. Anyway, let's get all those wires popped into there, get it all tiled off, and then that'll be that part all sorted. And here we have the 3 maximum security sails here. So we've got a bed there, a toilet, and the toilet roll all in place. And I just need to find one more of the glass doors there. Now I am going to put a little keypad on each of the doors there. I think that'll be a nice effect. I've got to work out what I'm going to be doing here. Now I'm not a massive fan of the light tan floor. It just doesn't look quite right. However, it's the only tile that I've got at the moment, which I've got a large quantity of. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to leave it like this for the time being. But due to the fact that this is a removable floor, I can easily change these tiles over to a different colour once I've worked out what colour I want it to be. And here we have the next 2 sections all in place on the mock. Still got to put all of the details in here, so there's a lot of details I want to add into the actual sails themselves. There's going to be a chair of some description here where the experiments are being carried on. And then inside here, I need to put some computers and some monitoring devices for Strange. Now, if I take this section away just here, I've actually managed to hide the wires inside that brick on the end there. So that's kept it all nice and tidy. So there's no sign of the wires at all. And there's no pinching of the wires as well. So that's worked out really well. But I've gone as far as I can go now with that as it is at the moment. I need to find out all of the pieces to do all of the details I want to do on there. With one of these sails, I think I'm going to have it as poison ivy and going to have a load of flowers in there to really give a pop of colour. There are some lights on the back of each sail, so that's going to help to light up when the next floor is all on top of there. And I need to work out how I'm going to be doing the grill section on here. There is a 6x4 plate, but then you won't be able to see down into there. So it'd almost be like they were having to lift it up in order to feed Killer Croc, which I'd sooner not have. I'd sooner have it so you can just dangle the food down through the grill to him. Would have been nice to have had more than 3 sails there for the maximum security, but obviously we have got the space limitations on here, so it's just nice to have some in there. And we're going to have a lot more sails in the main asylum itself. Now I'm going to turn my attention to is doing the removable rock panel, which is going to be going just here. And here we have the first removable rock panel, and it's nice and firmly in place. And what I've done, I've put a hole in the wall just here, so this actually slots down into it. So you've just got that one gap there. There's a tile on the bottom, got a little bit sticking out of the edge of the rock work just there. So then that just slides in place like so. So it's not going to topple forward, which is the main thing. Next rock panel over here is going to be in an L shape, so it covers that top bit as well as this entire bottom section. So the first thing we need to do, just tile off the bottom of there, and then I can start making the panel. And there we have it, the 2 rock panels all in place. I'm really pleased with how that's all gone together, and they're in there nice and firmly. This section just here is behind this rock work just here, so that's stopping it falling forward, and the same with that part there. Now what we need to do is just raise up the rock work on this section just here. And we've made a fair few changes to the Lighthouse base plate just here. This has now all been raised up, so it's the same level across this section, so we can now place Arkham Asylum on top there. We're going to have no trouble at all. Now I've removed the wedge plates that were on the steps here. Now I can actually put some tiled steps going up to the lighthouse. I think it's just going to look a lot better once it's all finished off. I just need to decide on what colour to do. Light bluish grey is the most obvious colour. However, it would be nice to try and use something different and something other than tan as well. So I'm just going to have a good think about it. I'm not sure whether there's a nougat colour or an orange that'll look good, but we'll certainly have a look through the different Lego pieces to see what's going to work best for us. No, I haven't covered this section here, and that's just because I need to finish doing some wiring. At the moment, we have this wire here coming out, which is for the lighthouse. And just below here, we have a section for the battery box. So that's where the power for the entire island is going to be. So that just rests on the top just there. So we're going to be using a lot of the wireless connector boards to get all of the power going to that section. So I just need to build one into that part just here, and then we'll work out how we're going to work the others over to it as well. Now there's a big drop just the other side of this stud just here. So I do need to build that base plate up as well. However, I do that when I do the details leading from the steps there over to Arkham as well. But really pleased with how this is all coming along. What I'm going to do now, I'm going to take this base plate back over to the table as there's a few finer details I want to put in that section. And here we have a small graveyard on the top of the rock face here with a tree. Just put a few plants around there, but I need to get a few more different plant elements in just to give the details I want to do on there. What I'm now going to turn my attention to is back over to the lighthouse. It should be over here. I'll just work on the top section and see what we can come up with. And here we have the top of the lighthouse pretty much done. I do want to change the dish out to a black one. However, I can't find my black one. I know I have got one in the collection somewhere, so that is something that I will be changing out. Now, I do still need to do all the mechanics inside, put the light in there. But again, this is something I'm not sure how I'm going to go about doing. So I have left a Technic hole in the middle there, so it's very easy for me to push something up through there and get that built. The top here is probably classed as an illegal building technique because it's just resting there. But it was the only way that I could get this all sorted. But it did take me a long time to work out the design I wanted to go with there. Originally, when I first started messing around with the top of the lighthouse, this part here was a lot smaller and it didn't look quite right. And I didn't want to go for the same width on that top section as you see on the icon set. So yeah, decided to go down this route. I'm really happy with how that has turned out. And there we have the lighthouse all in place with the tree and the graveyard in the background, and loving how this is all coming together. I think once I've got the pathway coming from the platform area just there from the cave all the way up to Arkham, I think that's going to add a lot. And if I can get some more greenery around it, again, that's going to add so much to the build. Now, I have ordered a light for the lighthouse top there. Now, Game of Bricks, apparently they do one that rotates. So I'm looking forward to seeing how that works, as it means I won't have to have a mechanism inside the lighthouse, which will be really good if we can get away with doing that. There's so many more details I need to add all the way across the island here. Now, with this section we worked on in this update, there's so many details I need to get added to that, but I need to work out exactly how I want it to look. I need to find out all the artifacts for the room below. I get the plants, how I want to have them looking in Poison Ivy's room as well. But at least we've got the main core part of this done now, so it's all ready to go for those finer details. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this update. If you have, please remember to give us a big thumbs up. If you haven't already done so, please consider subscribing to the channel and hit that notification bell so you don't miss any future content on the channel. And if you know anybody else you think would be interested in building Gotham City in Lego, if you could share the channel with them, it'd be much appreciated. Anyway, thanks for hopping on by, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.